Hello and welcome. Today I'm in the tier 10 German cruiser, the Hindenburg. And today I went to the A cap on Islands of Ice. Now this is a bit unusual because usually on this map what you want to do is you want to play around the B cap mostly. That is, the A cap etc. is secondary. And usually it's considered easier to take B and C than it is to take A and B. You see, the reason is that if you look at the minimap, you can see those two big islands. And if you look at it right now, you can see a St. Louis, Iowa, and Tirpitz. And those ships might not be able to fire right now because the island is between them and the enemy team. So you have less of an angle to shoot at because you need to be between these two islands. Whereas if you're on the C side, it's a lot easier from the C cap to fire into the B cap. However, of course, this doesn't decide the game. Now here, I'll turn closer again. However, I don't plan on going into the B cap because if you enter from here to B, it's pretty much a death sentence. And unless you're a battleship, and even then it's quite scary because, you know, you might just get ambushed by torpedoes. Now, I use Hydro on my Hindenburg, not because I think Hydro is definitively better. However, and I don't really spec for anti-air either, unlike many players do. I mostly just do it because I don't expect carriers in games, and well, as you can see, there is no carrier in this match. So, since now I'll be behind an island and unable to shoot at enemies, I plan to basically go into the enemy spawn, more or less, or at least that area, so that I can try to chase some of their battleships like that Iowa and or Izumo. My main worry is that maybe the Ognevoi will come and intercept me and torp me, etc. That could be dangerous. However, if I just have to fight the battleships, unless I push too far ahead, I think I should be fine. You see, the Hindenburg, or actually let's talk about tier 10 cruisers in general. I think tier 10 cruisers are in a rather interesting position. I know many people make memes about the Zao and go on and on about how overpowered she is or how powerful she is, like, oh my god, she starts so many fires, she deals so much damage. But if you actually look at the stats, I would say that tier 10 cruisers are... I don't know if the most balanced would be the right way to say it. However, the tier 10 cruisers are definitely the most varied. That is, pretty much all of them have some kind of a role they can fulfill, or at least they have their strengths and weaknesses, and none of them are like incredibly weak. You see, the Hindenburg actually has more HE damage output than the Zao. The Hindenburg starts more fires than the Zao, I mean if you properly equip it, etc. But it used to be that the Hindenburg was considered really weak. However, that's not the case anymore. You see, I want to say recently, but actually it happened quite a while ago, that they buffed the Hindenburg's HE penetration. Her 203 HE shell, 203mm HE shells have an HE penetration value of caliber divided by 4. Usually it's caliber divided by 6. So what this means is that while other tier 10 cruisers have HE penetration values of 203 divided by 6 is what, like 33mm, I think? Something like that. Right, which means that they can penetrate like 33mm of armor. However, Hindenburg's divided by 4 means that she can penetrate 50mm of armor. Also, I am really unfortunate with that torpedo. I was hoping that it wouldn't reach, but... oh, yeah, it didn't reach. Okay, good. I was getting slightly worried there. So the Hindenburg's divided by 4 means that it can penetrate 50mm of armor. And this is important because if you have over 50mm of HE penetration, and if you take IFHE, you can HE penetrate the deck armor of almost all battleships. There are some exceptions like the Friedrich der Grosse, however most others aren't. But what's even more interesting is that if you don't take IFHE, you can still penetrate the deck armor of most battleships that you can meet. You can't penetrate the deck armor of the Yamato, but you can penetrate the deck armor of the Montana, Iowa, Grossa Kurfürst, North Carolina, etc. And you might go like, oh, but what does it matter that you can penetrate the deck armor? You see, usually when cruisers shoot battleships at higher tiers, what they mostly aim for are either the bow armor, the aft armor, or the superstructure. If an HE shell hits those parts, they will penetrate and deal quite a bit of damage. However, if they usually hit the deck armor, then the HE shell penetration isn't enough and they just won't penetrate. However, in the case of the Hindenburg, you pretty much penetrate almost every time, which leads to situations where you deal quite significant HE damage, you know, with your salvos. And on top of that, your HE on the Hindenburg just has a really high amount of damage per minute too, higher than the Zao, like I mentioned. Of course, you don't have the Zao's accuracy. However, because you have so many shells that you fire so quickly, it kinda makes up for it. Now, I'm not gonna say that the Hindenburg's HE deals more damage than the Zao overall on average, that is if you like actually play, because the Zao's accuracy probably makes up for it. However, remember, the Hindenburg is a German cruiser, and she's not really special in that kind of a sense. You see, her HE damage output comes from the fact that she just puts out so many shells. I mean, look at this, I just did 6,000 damage, and only 8 of those 12 shells hit. And I keep firing like this, and I keep getting fires, etc. And this Iowa is going to get screwed. So, like I mentioned, the Hindenburg's damage with HE comes from the fact that she just puts out so many shells, and oh my god, another 6,000 damage. And I also tell my team that the fires are gonna pick her off. And so I switch over to the Izumo. Now, what's important to note with the damage coming from the fact that she fires so many shells is that she's a German cruiser. And German cruisers tend to have AP that deals very high amounts of damage, except that it just doesn't have as great penetration values or, you know, the other things that many of the other cruisers do. However, if you are in a situation where you can utilize that AP properly, that is a target, that is like a battleship that isn't angled and isn't too far away, or a cruiser, your damage output basically goes through the roof. I don't think you quite can contest the Des Moines, however, you're not that far off. Plus, you know, the HE is what you have. Oh, an example that everybody might understand. So, have you ever noticed how easy it is to damage an Izumo with HE? As a cruiser? You see, the reason is that Izumo's deck armor is 32mm, and basically all the ship is covered in 32mm of armor, which means that almost all the HE shells that you fire on her deal some damage, and that is why the Izumo is so weak against HE. Okay, so let's talk about some of the downsides. Well, of course, the Hindenburg is a cruiser, so, you know, cruiser things apply, which means that if a battleship gets a lucky salvo, you're gonna have a bad time. Now, the Hindenburg's armor scheme is pretty good, and she has a lot of HP at 52,000, so you're not the worst off. In fact, you're actually one of the best cruisers to be in while being shot at by a battleship, because you have a fairly good armor scheme. I believe it should be a turtle black, but I'm not 100% certain right now. I'd love to check, but as I'm recording this, I actually don't have an internet connection. Neither on my phone or at home. Anyways, so you also have obviously the heal, but you don't get anything like radar. You are a German cruiser, so you do get German hydro, but you know, it's not really that useful to you as a cruiser, I think. Because as a cruiser you're fairly maneuverable, so even standard hydro would be good enough. The anti-air is also pretty decent, although I wouldn't actually, you know, again, I wouldn't trade you for a Des Moines. Concealment is actually not that great as far as cruisers go, but, you know, overall I would say the Hindenburg is a really nice tier 10 cruiser, and in many situations I would actually prefer the Hindenburg over any other cruiser. So, the North Carolina is one of those US battleships that takes a lot of damage from your HE. So let's see how it goes. Oh, I only hit one shell. Maybe I need to learn to aim first. But now I switched AP because I am fairly close and she is showing me a broadside. And my angle, unfortunately I still took 10,000 damage, but I mean I did 6,500 damage in return with my AP. And I get to fire again. And I did another 10,000 damage to him, and I get to fire again before he gets to fire, right? I mean, I literally just did 10,000 damage to that battleship, just as much as he did to me. Now he's angled though, so that's why I swapped back to HE, and I think that should finish the North Carolina off. Good night. I know that there's a ZA over there and she has been shooting me, but because I angled more or less enough, I think it's okay. I swapped back to AP because I expect the ZA to show me broadside, which apparently she is, because, I don't know, ZAs are greedy and they want to fire all their guns, so she's gonna suffer for it. Oh, never mind. Never mind. I guess that friendly Iowa took care of it. Now, I do have Hydro running, which is very, very useful right now because the ZA most likely torpedoed, and ZA torpedoes are notoriously fast and quite deadly as a result. There they are. Unfortunately, I thought that the torps had already passed, or, you know, that the torps would have had to have been spotted. So I started turning towards the enemies there, but I got slightly lucky because, again, as a cruiser, she's fairly maneuverable, so I could, you know, dodge those torpedoes. Now I'll try to cap the C cap. It seems that their Shimakaze is in the A cap, which means that we don't have to deal, or we don't have to really worry about the Shimakaze dumping 15 torpedoes into our face. Especially since our Hydro has run out. Actually, it's really interesting. If you look at the minimap, you can see where the Shimakaze was last spotted. And she has actually made her way to the other side of the map without being spotted even once. I don't want to get accidentally shot at this moment because I would like to finish the cap zone, or finish capping before I try to engage. Because while we might have quite a significant advantage right now, it doesn't mean we're gonna win the game though, because, I mean, look, it's 6 ships against 5 now. And they actually do hold 2 of the cap zones. Okay, it's 6 against 4 now, but, you know, bear with me there, please. And I mean, we have like an Izumo and an Iowa, so they are not exactly the tankiest battleships. But now, they are showing me some broadside, so here I'm gonna go and try to finish them off. Bismarck and the Aerroon. The Aerroon is quite angled, so I would like to shoot the Aerroon, however, because she is angled, whereas the Bismarck is not, I prioritize the Bismarck, at least as far as HE shells go. Now, it's not because of angling, but rather that the shell, or it is because of angling, because I don't get as many shells on the target. Now, I also angle towards them because I think it's more important to stay alive for longer than it is to put out 2 guns worth of damage. Or 2 turrets worth of damage. I slow down because I don't want to get too close to the enemy Aerroon, because she does have torpedoes just as I do. Which means that if she gets close enough and I keep sailing towards them, I might accidentally run into them. And there goes the Aerroon. I'm gonna enter the B cap though. Because I am afraid that the DDs might, you know, bother me. Since I have Hydra available now, it's better to be on the move than to stand still. And the priority is obviously on the DD, because, well, a DD can swing the game harder at the end than a battleship can, in my opinion. Because a DD can always outrun the battleship and keep torpedoing. Okay, so I have 16,000 health and the Bismarck does not seem to be very interested. Oh, never mind. I wanted to say that she does not seem to be very interested in shooting me because I can, like, dodge and stuff, but, well, she is starting to hide underwater from me. And there's the Shimakaze. Good night to her as well. Well, I guess that salvo didn't actually finish it. One more, and I think that should be it. And that's a Kraken Unleashed too. I think the Hindenburg is a really, really good cruiser. As far as tier 10 cruisers go, In quite many situations I would actually prefer to be in the Hindenburg than any other cruiser. Nice 600,000 credits, 17,000 XP, 180k damage, got my Kraken, 2,900 base XP. Was a really good game. But, you know, this Schumacher's on my team also did really well, so I'm gonna compliment him. I'm also gonna compliment the enemy Schumacher because I think she tried as hard as she could. However, his team just didn't back him up enough. 1.3 million potential damage, not the highest, but as you can see, look at those HE and fire damage numbers, right? Like, this is a significant amount of damage. And I mean, I didn't get like insane RNG or anything, so this is like just a good Hindenburg game. Oh, and a nice 35k Captain XP. I hope you're all jealous. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I would like to thank the patrons and patron. Thank you very much for being patient with me. And I hope I'll see you guys next time.